It is noon and we're going to kick this thing off. So a few housekeeping items before we get started. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, you can pop them into the chat. We will try to take them throughout the presentation, but we'll definitely get to them at the end. Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Christy Thompson, and today we're talking about the 3 simple steps business owners must take to transform employees into security champions. And one tip you probably never thought of. So I'd like to introduce you to our host and speaker, Ikram Massabini. So Ikram Massabini, he's the president and CEO of MVP, and he has a BS degree in electronic engineering, 25 years of IT experience. He's a HIPAA consultant and auditor, IT security consultant, multiple technical certifications, and there's his email if you have any questions. So he also has some publications as well. He has written 2 books, Computers Should Just Work, right? And Cybersecurity Essentials for Business Owners. So I'm going to hand it over to Ikram.
Everybody, I hope you guys can see me and hear me. Christy, can you see me and hear me? All right, sounds good. Looking forward to this. And today we're going to talk about something very important, which is the security of your network and 3 things that you got to be aware of. So I'll start by saying that the whole idea here is it's all about building a culture of security in your organization, that it's important that everybody puts security top of mind. And that comes from the top down. If people are not thinking about security and they're willy-nilly clicking on stuff out there, it becomes an issue. It can cause a big issue and end up costing you tons of money. So let's get started. What is the biggest assets and liability in your company? If you guys can guess, well, the biggest assets and liability are one thing. They're your employees. And did you know that employee errors account for 88% of all data breaches? Every time somebody says, what happened? Well, somebody clicked on something, right? You guys heard that before. So why is that happening? Number 1, increase it in phishing scams. A lot of people are getting phishing emails all the time. It's happening constantly. Sometimes they try to pretend to be the owner. Sometimes they try to pretend to be a client or a vendor asking you to wire them the money for a specific job and giving you a false bank account information. And then not only is there an increase in phishing scams, but more hybrid work environment. And we're inviting our employees' home networks to be connected to ours, and sometimes not done properly with the right security in place. And then unenforced company policies and processes. That's important to know that when we ask people if they have policies and processes, they said, oh yeah, we have policies for this and we have policies for that. Are they being followed? That's a question that you have to be asked. How do you know they're being followed? And there's little or no cybersecurity training at all. Our employees really don't know what to do and what to look for. It's our job as business owners to be able to do that and to help them and to train them. Increase in phishing scams in 2022, 92% of businesses fell victim of some kind of phishing attacks. In March of 2020, 81% of businesses globally have seen an increase in phishing attacks via email. More specifically, business email compromise. It's called BEC. It's well known. In 21, 65% of organizations suffered a business email compromise. People will hack your email system because your email is outside your firewall, sometimes easier to get to, and they will use your data and of your clients to spam them so that they can click on something pretending to be you. In 2022, 77% of organizations suffered BEC, or business email compromise. And that's happening for a multitude of reasons. Most importantly, more hybrid work environment is happening. So in the US, 66% of workers telecommute at least part-time. They work remotely and they want to work remotely, and they log in remotely from their network. And that extends the security stack that we have to worry about. And 60% of remote employees are using devices for work that are not secured at all. They use their own personal laptops or something else, or an iPad or whatever it may be, connecting you to that, connecting their network to yours. So something to really be aware of. And a lot of people have policies and procedures around that. So unenforced company policies and procedures and processes. You could have all the policies and procedures that you want, but you have to make sure they're being followed. So your policies are not being followed because they're not being enforced. That's as simple as that. They're not being followed because they're not being enforced. And they're not being enforced because the proper technology is not in place. So be aware of that. You can have policies, but that's just one portion of it. Little to no cybersecurity training at all. Only 1 in 3 businesses have reported implementing some kind of cyber awareness training. We offer cyber awareness training for all our partners as part of our offering. We think that it's that important that we include it, because at the end of the day, if you're aware of what's happening, if you know what to look for, if you know which email to click on, which link is safe versus it's not safe, if you look at an email, you could tell if it's a scam or not a scam. Well, that makes you a lot better. And that only comes with training and with time. That means 64% of organizations have employees that are not being trained about cybersecurity at all. It's not part of their culture. It's not what they talk about. It's not top of mind. And that comes from the top down, like I said. So start thinking about cybersecurity, but cybersecurity training and awareness to try to get employees there. And as a business owner, what can you do? So let's see. Let's grab something to write with, and let's get started on our 3 steps that we talked about, if you will. So step number 1, update policies and procedures. Make sure you have policies and procedures that are updated, that fit your business model, that are around how you guys operate. And you can get help with that. There are some templates you could use, but most importantly, make sure they're updated and they make sense for the people that are reading. And number 2, enforce them with technology. Have the tools to make sure they are being followed. Make sure that they're being followed and that they are adhered to. And number 3 is turn your employees into security champions. Train them. Make sure they're aware of what to look for and truly secure your environment. Now, there's all kinds of tools to use to secure your environment, but if the most important tool is your employees, let's get them trained. Let's make sure they're aware what a good email is versus a bad one, what a good link is or a good website is versus a bad one, what a fake Facebook website is versus the real Facebook website, among other things. The whole idea, again, it's all about building that culture of security. So having said that, we'll start with step 1, which update policies and procedures. Why would we want to do that? I mean, policies and procedures don't do anything. Well, they do. They make it top of mind. So there's increased phishing scams, as we talked about. There's more hybrid work environment happening, unenforced company policies and procedures happening, mishandled confidential data, little to no cybersecurity training. So with all that things happening, well, where are the gaps? Well, let me give you some policies and procedures. I'm going to wait on this screen for a little bit to talk about some policies that you should have. Internet usage policy, what employees are allowed to look for, what they're allowed to do. Do you allow them to shop? Do you allow them to do searches for gambling or sports? Do you, not to mention, terrorism and porn and all the other stuff that you want to stop, but you have to have a policy written up so that people understand what you expect them to do. Social media policy. Now, some people in marketing need access to social media. They need to post on your behalf. They need to work on your behalf because you have a social media presence. But do you want your employees checking their personal social media during work hours? And sometimes we hear people say, well, I don't mind if they check it for a specific amount of time. Well, you have a mechanism in place to stop them after they've reached that 15, 20, 30 minutes you allow them to do and use social media. And then data ownership. The most important thing that we protect is data. You're getting hacked because of your data. Your data is your money, is your username and passwords, is social security numbers, is credit card numbers you may have on your network. Data ownership is important. Have policy around it, that the people, your employees, have to be aware of where the data is and that it's secured. Or is it in an encrypted directory? Could it be scanned and found out? Just have policy written around that. And then what happens? Have a policy around incident response. What will happen if you discover a hack or if something does happen? How are you going to respond to that? Who's going to help you respond? What are you going to do? What are the steps you need to take to make sure that that's covered and you responded to that attack that happened? Who are you going to call first? Who are you going to call second? What else are you going to do? What are you going to turn on and turn off? How are you going to alert everybody that you're working with that something happened? And one of the other important things is disaster recovery, backup and disaster recovery. And I like to often call it business continuity plan. So what will happen if your server goes down and gets hacked or something happens to it for whatever reason? It doesn't have to be a hack. It could be a hardware issue. What are you going to do next? Do you have backup? How long will you take the backup take for it to be restored? Do you need to restore it? Could it be virtualized in 10 to 20 minutes to get you up and running and operational right away? But have a policy written that describes all this. Work with your people, understand what they have in place for you. And if they don't have it, work with us. We'll help you get there. And security awareness training, I mentioned it a few times. Have a training policy, have a training system, have employees go in and take the training on a yearly basis at least, with micro trainings in the middle, maybe quarterly, and then have them take a test at the end of it so that we know that they're aware. And when you train them, they'll become a lot better and be a steward of security in your environment. So update policy and procedures was step number one. And here's some that you should focus on and make sure you have. Next would be step two, which is enforce with technology. So what does that mean? Because we've asked some people and they said, well, if it's in my policy, nothing will happen. I have a policy for that. I don't need to worry about that. I told them not to go to porn sites. They're not going to do that. Or we never see employees not following policies and procedures, do we? I mean, ever? Let's face it, people make mistakes, sometimes on purpose. So I'll give you an example. And I've mentioned this example before, but it's something we've struggled with this client, and we've helped them quite a bit. But it's a small accounting firm, and the small accounting firm, our security team helped them a couple of years ago, and I would call them a micro accounting firm. There's 8 people in the company. It's a very small company. And we're recovering from ransomware there. But this is what happened for them, is that they have a cloud-based tax software. They didn't even have a servers, only machines. Somebody gained access trying to perform e-filing. The partner got phished, clicked on something. Once he clicked on it, somebody got access to it, was able to get their username to their cloud-based software. Once they got that access, they did 180 fraudulent tax returns and tried to push them to the IRS so that they can get checks back. Well, guess what happened? The IRS discovered it and stopped this accounting firm from being able to e-file altogether. Think about that. An accounting firm nowadays that cannot e-file for all their clients, they have to do it manually. Think about the hassle they went through. So to me, all businesses at risk. Small business, big business, business in the cloud. I don't have a server. I only use this application. If you have a machine that you log into, all businesses get hacked. It's not a when, it's not if, it's definitely when. So having said that, how do you enforce those policies, right? Well, I want to talk to you guys about what I call the layer of security, layers of security. We're not just protecting your network or your data. Let me explain to you the layers real quick. And what are we trying to protect is data. It's your data. That's the most important piece. The things that you produce, your social security numbers, your credit card numbers, your passwords, your data, whatever you may use in the data. Every piece of data can only be produced through an application. That's layer number 2. So layer number 1 is data. Layer number 2 is an application. So even if you want to write one sentence, you have to open some kind of an application to write it, whether it being Notepad, Word, Excel, whether it being your application or your EHR system or EMR system, whether it being your ERP system, whatever system you have, it's an application that you're using to produce that data. Well, that's the second layer, and we need to protect that application layer. Data layer, application layer. And every application on the third layer is installed on an endpoint, on a computer of some sort. Whether you're logging in remotely to a server and you're using it remotely because it's in the cloud, it's still an endpoint that you're responsible for. Or you're just booting up your laptop and connecting to some kind of environment, still it's an endpoint. So every single application is loaded on a computer or a server of some sort. The computer and the server, that's layer number 3. Now let's go to layer number 4. Layer number 4 is the network they're connected to. So that's another layer we got to protect, is the network layer. Your switch, how devices communicate within the network, your domain, is it hardened? Did you put enough group policies in there to do all the work that we want to secure you correctly? Do you have multi-factor authentication to log in remotely to that network? And if you look at my little design here, I have different application and different tools to use to secure that specific layer. Doesn't mean you need them all, but we can discuss and decide what you need. And that network has a perimeter before the outside world. That perimeter is your firewall. We recommend DNS sanitization and email security as well. We want to protect you and protect your perimeters. We want to close the doors and the windows for that somebody doesn't jump through the perimeter into your network, onto the endpoint to get to your application to view your data and go across your network laterally, hitting one machine at a time till they get to the server and get all your data. And the last layer is the human layer. Training, training, training. And also use some kind of password management. We recommend Password Boss, but it's a password management, it's a password vault. That way your passwords are not in your browser where they're easily crackable and retrievable. So when we think of security, we think of those 6 layers. That's everything. So talking about that, so here's a simple 6-question test, if you will, to know if you're protected enough. Trying to give you some data, trying to make you as aware as possible. So question number 1, do you have some sort of data loss prevention system and encryption to keep your data safe? Do you need both? I think you need both. I think you need encryption at a minimal. DLP, or data loss prevention, could be something that you'd be required to have, or you could use a different type of tools to get you that same type of protection. That's on the data layer. Well, how about the application layer? Do you have an application allow list? Can any application run, or only the ones that we decided are the ones that you use for your business, so nothing else can run? So that most viruses and ransomware are applications running on your device. That's all they are. Well, if they're not in the allow list, they can't run. It protects you. It's not traditional antivirus. We're talking about application allow list. Only the things that we decide are important will run. Think of it this way, like a VIP list to a very exclusive club. Are you on the list? If you're not, you can't come in. Same with the application allow list tool. If it's not on the list, it can't run. Well, how about endpoints? Third layer. Do you have a good antivirus? Is it an EDR system? Or better yet, is it an MDR system, which is an EDR system with hunting and management? Somebody looking at every event happening on those endpoints and taking action right away. And if you have mobile devices, we recommend mobile device management, something that can do auto wipe of devices if they get lost, or selective wipe if the employee owns the device and they're no longer working for you. We just want to remove your data, not their pictures and personal information. Selective wipe, geo-track the device, among other capabilities that you could do with mobile device management. Do you have those tools in place to protect you? When you're going to log in remotely to that network, do you have MFA in place, multi-factor authentication? You know, the code that you get on your phone to make sure that you log in, even though you know your password. Well, if the hacker also knows your password or have some kind of password cracker, they won't have an MFA cracker because that number changes every 20 seconds. Let's make it harder on them. So do you have MFA? And did you have domain hardening? Did you go through Windows? Because if you know Windows and your domain, it's basically done wide open. You got to go in and close doors and close windows. Has it been hardened? Have all the doors been closed? You have your firewall installed on your Windows firewall activated and installed on every endpoint. Other things to look for. These are tools that you could have to make sure policies and procedures are being followed. Then we talked about our perimeter. Do you have a firewall? Well, if you do, that's great. But is the firewall enterprise level? In other words, does it do something called IPS, intrusion prevention systems? Does it have DPI, data deep packet inspection? Because DPI is the HTTPS, right? Anything encrypted coming through a firewall, if DPI is not enabled, the firewall will just let it go through. And hackers are using that now, thinking that a lot of people don't enable DPI on the firewall. Not every firewall support it. Enterprise levels do. If you do enable it, it does slow down the firewall a little bit. So you have to oversubscribe a little bit on the CPU of this firewall. We'll work with you to size it properly and make sure it fits. But it's important to have those functionalities enabled. DNS sanitization is very important as well, because every request you do outside your network goes out to the internet. It's the wild, wild west out there. Well, before you go out and anything comes in, we need it scanned not only by your firewall and your tools internally to your network, because they're already internal to your network. We want it scanned outside your network. Sanitize them first before it comes to you. Make sure they come to you clean. And then email security is a big portion of it, because your email is out there. How's your spam? Do you get a lot of spam? You get phished all the time? When you get a link in your email and you click on it, do you have a system that makes sure the link is not malicious and verify the link that is going to somewhere it's supposed to go? Tools to truly make sure your policies and procedures are being adhered to. And the last one, the last question test, if do you have password management? And here you're providing human security training to protect against human errors. I mean, these are important things to think about. These are important tools to consider. And this is important things to make sure that to keep security top of mind. And in the end of the day, you are responsible for what your employees do with your data. It's your data. Your partners and clients rely on you to secure their stuff that they give you. You work with them and they rely on you. It's a trusting relationship, and you're responsible for what your employees do. Did you train them, or you're responsible and you just let them do their thing? So let's turn employees into security champions. Let's make sure they're aware of what's happening, and let's enforce it with technology. But let's turn your employees into security champions. What does that look like? You might be thinking, I don't need to deploy an in-house training program. I mean, an in-house training program, is that overkill? My employees can all spot a phishing email. They're really good at what they do. I don't have to worry about it. You know, I'm too small. Nobody's going to come after me. Well, can they though? I mean, can they? I mean, these organizations, Google, Facebook, Sony, among others, the list is long. Target, Home Depot, I'll give you a much bigger organization. And those employees for these technology companies could not identify a phishing email. And they're being trained. So we want to at least train our employees in the small, medium-sized environment that we live in. You know, would you want drivers on the road who can't identify traffic signs because they haven't been trained on how to drive properly? It's important. Obviously not. That would be risky. It would cause a lot of accidents, and that's an issue. Remember that that accounting firm I talked about before, it took them 2 years and we're still recovering. The IRS just allowed them now to be able to do e-filing again. 2 years later, it almost bankrupted them. And I don't want to see that happening to anybody else. It was a big deal. We got them there, but it was a big deal. And you might be thinking, not all my employees are being targeted. I mean, come on now. Well, unfortunately, everybody's being targeted. Every single person has some kind of a story about something that happened online that shouldn't have happened. Hackers look for low-hanging fruit. That's what they do. And imagine how you would feel if a hacker impersonated you and your employee couldn't identify it. Happens. Happens where emails get sent on your behalf from you saying, please, I need you to go get some Google Play cards and give me the numbers right away. I needed to give this to this client. I'm on site now. Causes fake sense of urgency and making employees who want to help jump through hoops to get hacked. And then they wired money to the hacker. And you don't want that to happen. Training is important. 93% of security breaches are preventable. It's because most of them start with a click that somebody clicked on. So how can you avoid being a victim? Turn your employees into security champions. Make them understand that it's important that the culture of security lives in your organization, that they need to be aware of who's asking for what and when, that if they get an email, to be aware of what to look for in that email. If they get a link, to be aware of what to do to make sure that it's correct, and to improve that entire environment with tools to harden that environment to help your employees. The idea is all about building that culture of security. It's key, and it's how the only way to protect yourself and your employees, and most importantly, your partners, your clients. I recommend provide and require monthly cybersecurity training. And when you work with us, we include an employee training system as part of any offering that we have. We include it. We want your employees to take it. We'll do some phishing email tests with them. We'll make sure they are trained and have it available for them, and that they are able to protect your network and your data, because it costs time, money, frustration. Don't waste your time. Focus on your business and make sure your employees know what to look for. Train them, make them better. So something you've never thought of is a third-party cybersecurity testing. So have us test your environment, whether we're doing it for you or not. This is a third-party cybersecurity test. We use a third party to come in and run a scan on your environment and show us where the holes are to make sure that we cover those holes. You may be thinking, am I the right person for this? I mean, I have an IT guy. Maybe they're the right person. I don't want them to think I don't think they're doing their job. Any good IT guy will welcome the opportunity for a third-party test if they know they're doing their job right. Here's the thing. Keeping your company secure is everyone's responsibility, not just yours. Even if it's just taking a simple step and training your employees and securing your environment and testing it. So are your employees really being trained now? Do you know if you're providing a full training environment? Are they getting a test at the end of it? I want you to be able to say yes to all these questions. I want you to be able to know where you stand, and we're gonna help you get there. Will your IT department be involved for the test we'll be doing? No, it's a security test. Somebody clicked on something. That's all they did. We don't need to install anything on your network yet. We don't need your administrative credentials to see how far a hacker can get. All we need to do is we're going to send you a link, and you're going to send that link to 5 key users that you want to test. You're going to click on run to start the scan. And then we're going to provide you with a confidential report, show you what we found and what a hacker would find if they did click on that link that we sent you. We're providing cybersecurity training as well. So let's say somebody clicked on something and they weren't supposed to click. Well, how far across the network can a hacker get? You invited them to come into your door. Can they get your information just on that machine that they're on? Your passwords, usernames, system access, data, credit card numbers, social security numbers. Can they get that data from your machine? And if they can't, Or can they jump from one machine to the other and go laterally across your network? Can they jump on to your server and get all that data out because you allowed that one click to happen? How far across the network are they going to get? I only got 1 minute left, so I'm trying to make it fast. It's important to know what risks you're under. And we'll do that for you guys with a free test. And we will be providing free cyber training for anybody on this webinar that's interested. So if you're interested in a free cyber training portal that all your employees can take, we'll provide it for you guys free just for joining today and requesting our scan. So what's the catch here? Just a little one. We can't do that for everybody, so only the people on the webinar will have access to that. And this is usually, we charge $1,500 for the scan. It's important to know that. It's important to know that we're trying to protect 1 million partners. We want to protect everybody that we touch. We don't want anybody to be at risk. So training, let's scan your environment, see what risks you have, what tools you should have from those 6 layers I discussed to make sure we fit properly. Whether you're under compliance or not, whether you have to comply with NIST or CMMC or PCI or HIPAA or any of the other ones out there. Even if you don't have to comply with them, are you secure enough? Are you security conscious enough? Is it part of your DNA? Is it a security culture? So, like I said, we'll send you a link. You'll click on run and we'll get you the report. So go to mvpworks.com/cyber. It's easy. Fill out that form and we'll get a hold of you. That's all there is to it. So I see a couple of questions came through. We'll go to questions now. Are UB keys still considered best practices? Yes, they are. UB keys are great, especially for MFA. If you guys are not aware of what UB keys look like, they're a little USB style key that have an NFC chip in them. They actually do the MFA for you. So you could build in the UB key all the different application that you have MFA for. You could then, instead of having to retype that code every single time, if you have your UB key and your UB key in your USB port, not that easy for me to say, I guess, it will save time because you won't have to enter that code every single time. It'll do it for you automatically because it knows the UB keys there, knows that belongs to you. So yes, Eric, I hope that answered your questions. And I like Duo for MFA, and Microsoft have their own as well, but UB key is still considered one of the best. I definitely agree with that. Next question. Will this presentation be available to download? Yes, it will. All our presentation and webinars will be on our website under the webinar section and also on our YouTube page, and it will be chopped up in different TikToks and other things and other posts everywhere. Our marketing department does a great job. I appreciate every single one of them. My pleasure, Eric. And where can you purchase your books? Well, they're available out there, but I'll send you one, Connie. I'll send you a copy of each. It'll be my pleasure, and I hope you enjoy them. I have one other questions coming. Oh, you're welcome, Connie, anytime. How long does it take for the scan? So the scan, the link that we sent you will take about between 15 minutes to an hour, but you could still use the machine at the same time. So you get the link, you click on it, you click run, it will go in the corner and you'll see it running by itself in the corner, and then it will disappear when it's done. And that's all. You could use your machine because we want to simulate what a hacker would do. You're not stopping to work to run a scan. No, a hacker will work behind you, not making you aware they're there. We're simulating everything they would do. We'll see all the vulnerabilities and all the holes we could find, all the gaps, if you will, we find on your network. I hope that answered your question. And Dawn, thank you so much. She had this scan done. It's super easy, and the information we got afterwards was incredibly helpful. And it doesn't interrupt your work at all. Thank you so much, Dawn. I do agree. The information by itself is worth its weight in gold, because you get to really see where some holes are, and easily see what you could do to protect yourself and make yourself not a low-hanging fruit, just a little higher up the tree. Because hackers are lazy, and if it takes too much effort, they'll move on to the next one. So let's make ourselves a lot harder and make the network a lot more hardened, and reach out to us. We'll let you know what the issues are. 5 minutes over, but thank you for staying with me a little longer. We'll be posting this in the next couple of days, and we'll be ready to help and scan your network as soon as you guys are ready. Thank you so much. Any other questions? I'll stay on for another couple of seconds here and see if there is anything else. If not, have a great day, everybody, and thanks for your time. I will say hi to Ben. My pleasure, Connie. Have a great day, Eric. Thanks, Jen. And thank you, Christy, for the intros. Have a great day, everybody. All right, we'll end. Thank you. Bye-bye.